Hey there, my name is Ryan Carter. I'm 28 years old, a software engineer scraping by in Seattle, Washington, trying to make sense of a life that once felt like a dream. 4 years ago, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. Picture this. I'm at a rooftop party downtown, the skyline glowing behind me, and I lock eyes with Sophie Bennett. She's 30 now, but back then she was this whirlwind of blonde hair, hazel eyes, and a smile so sharp it could sell you a $500 purse without you even noticing your wallet's gone. I was hooked. 8 months later, I'm down on one knee. 2 years after that, we're engaged. I thought, this is it, Ryan. You're happily ever after. But here's the twist. Sophie's parents, James and Linda Bennett, had a different script in mind. To them, Sophie wasn't just my fiancée, she was their golden child, their sun and moon, while I was just the guy holding her coat in the background. Let me paint you a picture of how this went. I grew up hustling. Full ride to college because I stayed up nights grinding through code while my buddies partied. Landed a solid job at a tech firm downtown, pulling six figures by 26. Not bad, right? Meanwhile, Sophie floated through life on a cloud of praise from James and Linda. She gets a promotion at her fancy retail job. Cue the champagne, the toasts, the "we're so proud of you, Soph" speeches. She buys a new car, a sleek little Audi, mind you, and James practically throws her a parade in their suburban backyard. Me? I tell them about my job, my first big project launch, and Linda's response is, "Oh, that's nice, Ryan," before she pivots to ask Sophie about her weekend brunch plans. Guess my code didn't sparkle enough to catch their eye. It's not that I needed a gold star pinned to my chest. I'm a big boy, I can handle a little oversight. But 4 years of swallowing that pill, it starts to choke you. You'd think I'd be used to it by now, playing second fiddle to Sophie's endless encore. Spoiler alert, I wasn't. Every time James clapped her on the back for some minor win, I'd bite my tongue and tell myself, "It's fine, Ryan, they're just proud parents." But deep down, it gnawed at me. I wasn't jealous. Not really. I loved Sophie, or at least the version of her I thought I knew. But being the invisible fiancé in their little family play, that cuts deeper than I'd like to admit. Then, last Wednesday, out of the blue, my phone rings. It's Linda, her voice all syrupy sweet. "Ryan, we're having a little family celebration this Saturday at Giovanni's downtown," she says, like she's tossing me a bone. "It'd mean so much if you could come." Now, that alone should have set off every alarm in my head. James and Linda don't call me unless it's about Sophie, her birthday, her new haircut, her latest shopping spree, but call me a fool, because I let a flicker of hope creep in. Maybe this time was different. Maybe after 4 years of being the guy who just tags along, they were finally throwing me a nod. Maybe they'd seen my late nights, my steady job, my loyalty to their daughter, and thought, hey, let's give Ryan a moment. So I said yes, hung up, and spent the next 3 days convincing myself I wasn't walking into a trap. Saturday rolls around, and I pull up to Giovanni's, this swanky Italian joint in Seattle's core. The place is buzzing, tables decked out with flowers, balloons floating like it's some grand affair. My stomach twists. This isn't a little family celebration. This is a full-on event. I step inside, scanning the crowd. James, Linda, aunts, uncles, cousins, all gathered around a long table. And there, in the centre of it all, is Sophie, grinning like she's just invented gravity. A banner hangs above her. "Congratulations, Sophie!" My jaw clenches. Of course, it's always her. What's it this time? Another promotion, a new purse? I find out soon enough, but trust me, folks, it gets so much worse. Stick around, because this isn't just about a party gone sideways. This is about how I flipped their little game and made Sophie wish she'd never smirked at me that night. So there I was, Wednesday afternoon, hunched over my desk in my cramped little apartment in Seattle's Capitol Hill, debugging a line of code that refused to cooperate. My phone buzzed, cutting through the hum of my laptop fan. I glanced at the screen. Linda Bennett. Sophie's mom. My heart did a little flip, not the good kind, more like the what now kind. Linda didn't call me often. Last time was 6 months ago, asking if I could fix their Wi-Fi because Sophie mentioned I was good with computers. I picked up, bracing myself. "Hey, Linda," I said, keeping it casual, like I wasn't already expecting some chore dumped in my lap. Her voice came through, all sugar and warmth, the kind that makes you squint suspiciously. "Ryan, hi. We're having a little family celebration this Saturday at Giovanni's downtown. It'd mean so much if you could come." I froze, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Family celebration at Giovanni's? That's not some hole-in-the-wall diner. It's one of those upscale Italian spots where you don't even look at the menu unless you've got a fat wallet or a rich uncle. My mind raced. They never invited me to anything unless it was about Sophie, her birthday bash, her promotion party 2 years back, that time they threw a dinner because she adopted a cat. But this felt different. Linda's tone had this weird, almost pleading edge, like she really wanted me there. I should have seen the red flags waving like a 4th of July parade, but I didn't. Call me naive, call me a sucker, but after 4 years of being the guy who just tags along, I let myself hope. Maybe this was it. Maybe James and Linda had finally clocked my late nights coding, my steady job, the way I'd stuck by Sophie through thick and thin. Maybe they were throwing me a bone, a "Hey Ryan, you're part of this family too" moment. So I swallowed my gut's warning growl and said, "Yeah, Linda, I'll be there, sounds great." The next 3 days were a blur. I'd catch myself grinning at random times while grabbing coffee from the corner shop while jogging along the waterfront. I'd built this whole fantasy in my head, James raising a glass to me, Linda smiling like she actually meant it, Sophie squeezing my hand under the table. I even dug up my best button-up shirt, a navy one Sophie once said made my eyes pop, and ironed it Friday night like some giddy teenager. I told myself I was overthinking the doubt. Sure, they'd always put Sophie on a pedestal. Her getting assistant manager after 6 months was apparently Nobel Prize material. But this time I convinced myself it was for me, or at least for us. 4 years engaged, and I was still waiting for them to see me as more than Sophie's tech support sidekick. Saturday couldn't come fast enough. When it did, I was a mess of nerves and excitement. I hopped in my beat-up Honda, the one Sophie always teased me about upgrading, and drove downtown. It was March 01, 2025, a crisp Seattle evening, the kind where the city lights bounce off the wet streets like a movie scene. Giovanni's loomed ahead, all glass and warm glow, tucked between high-rises. I parked a block away, valet wasn't in my budget, and adjusted my shirt in the rearview mirror. "You've got this, Ryan," I muttered, psyching myself up. I stepped out, the chilly air biting my cheeks, and walked toward the entrance, my heart thumping louder with every step. The moment I pushed through the doors, reality hit me like a brick. The place was packed, not just a few tables, but a full-on event. Long tables stretched across the room, decked out with white linens, flowers, candles flickering like this was some fancy gala. Balloons bobbed overhead, red and gold, screaming celebration. My stomach twisted into a knot. This wasn't a little family thing. This was a production. I scanned the crowd. James in his usual blazer, Linda fussing over a centerpiece, aunts, uncles, cousins I barely knew, all buzzing around like bees in a hive. And then I saw it. A banner strung across the back wall, bold letters spelling out, "Congratulations, Sophie." My jaw clenched so hard I swear I heard it creak. Of course, a freaking course. This wasn't about me. It never was. I stood there, rooted to the spot, my navy shirt feeling stupidly overdressed now. People milled around, laughing, clinking glasses, oblivious to the guy in the doorway turning to stone. Then Sophie spotted me. She was in the center of it all, perched like a queen at the head table, her blonde hair swept up, hazel eyes glinting under the chandelier light. She turned, caught my eye, and her lips curled into this smirk, like she just won some secret game. "Oh," she said, loud enough for the whole damn room to hear. "Ryan, you actually came? I figured you'd be too busy coding or whatever." Her voice dripped with that fake surprise she'd perfected, the kind that stings worse because you know it's meant to. A few heads turned, some cousins chuckled, and my chest tightened. I forced a smile, the kind you slap on when you're dying inside, and stepped forward. "Yeah, Soph, wouldn't miss it," I said, my voice steady even though I wanted to bolt. I glanced at Linda, hoping for some backup, some sign this wasn't what it looked like. She met my gaze for half a second, then looked away, fussing with a napkin like it was the most important thing in the world. James just sat there, sipping his wine, pretending I didn't exist. I moved toward the table, scanning for an empty seat, any empty seat, nothing. Every chair was taken, every place setting pristine, not a single spot left. My throat burned. They hadn't even bothered to save me a place. Sophie leaned back, twirling her wine glass, that smirk still plastered on her face. "Wow, didn't think you'd make it," she said, louder this time, like she was performing for the crowd. "Mum, you didn't tell me Ryan was coming." Linda mumbled something, her eyes darting to the floor. "Well, we weren't sure if he'd be free," she said, barely audible over the chatter. Sophie snorted, a sharp little laugh that cut through me. "I mean, this is for family, so—" She waved a hand at the full table, her meaning crystal clear. I didn't count. I stood there, the room spinning slow around me. 4 years engaged, and I'm still the outsider. I looked at Linda again, my voice low but steady. "There's no seat for me?" She shifted in her chair, still avoiding my eyes. James took another sip of wine, silent as a statue. The air felt thick, suffocating, every laugh from the table slicing deeper. I should have known. Sophie's promotion, assistant manager after 6 months, was apparently the event of the century. Me? I'd landed a senior engineer gig last year, doubled my salary, and got a "that's cool" text from her. But Sophie, she climbs one tiny rung, and it's banners and balloons. I swallowed hard, the fake smile slipping. What was I even doing here? I'd walked in hoping for a shred of respect, a nod that I mattered. Instead I got Sophie's smirk and a table with no room for me. My hands balled into fists at my sides. I could have yelled, flipped a chair, made a scene they'd talk about for years. But I didn't. I just nodded like an idiot and said, "I've got it." Then I turned, my boots scuffing the polished floor, and walked out. The cold Seattle air hit me like a slap as I stepped outside, but I didn't look back. Let them have their party. Let Sophie bask in her glory. I was done playing their game, or so I thought. Trust me, folks, this was just the beginning. I walked out of Giovanni's that Saturday night, the Seattle chill biting into my skin as I made my way back to my Honda. The city lights blurred past me, reflecting off the wet pavement like some mocking reminder of the glow I'd just left behind. My chest was tight, my hands shaking on the wheel, but I didn't let myself break. Not yet. I kept replaying it. Sophie's smirk, Linda's mumble, James sipping his wine like I was invisible. 4 years engaged, and they couldn't even spare me a chair. I drove home to my Capitol Hill apartment in silence, the hum of the engine the only sound keeping me company. I half expected my phone to light up. Linda with some weak apology, James grunting a "Where'd you go?" Maybe even Sophie tossing me a flirty text to smooth it over. Nothing. Not a single buzz. I got home, tossed my keys on the counter, and collapsed onto my couch staring at the ceiling. They didn't care. None of them did. Sunday morning hit me like a hangover, even though I hadn't touched a drop. I dragged myself out of bed, the sting of last night still fresh, and brewed a pot of coffee. I was halfway through my first cup when my buzzer went off. I frowned, shuffling to the intercom. "Who is it?" I asked, my voice rough. "Ryan, it's us," Linda's voice crackled through, all soft and hesitant. "Us?" I buzzed them in, my gut twisting again. Maybe they'd come to make it right. Maybe they'd seen how they'd screwed up and wanted to fix it. I opened the door, and there they were, Linda wringing her hands, James standing stiff behind her, like he'd rather be anywhere else. They looked sheepish, almost guilty. For a split second, I let myself hope again. "Hey," I said, stepping aside, "come in." They walked straight to my living room like they owned the place. Linda perched on the edge of my couch, smoothing her skirt like she was about to negotiate a car deal. James stayed standing, shifting his weight, his eyes darting to the window. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, waiting. "So," I started, keeping it neutral. "What's up?" Linda sighed, big and dramatic, like I'd just asked her to climb Everest. "We need to talk," she said, her voice dripping with that fake concern she'd mastered. I raised an eyebrow. "Talk about what?" James rubbed his temples, finally speaking up. "Look, Ryan, we need a favour." A favour, after last night. My stomach dropped, but I kept my face blank. "Okay," I said slow. "What kind of favour?" Linda gave me this tight little smile, the kind you'd give a kid before asking them to mow the lawn. "About last night," she said, pausing like she was choosing her words. I waited, my pulse picking up. Here it comes, I thought, the apology, we messed up. Then she dropped the bomb. "We need you to cover the bill." I blinked, my brain stuttering to a halt. "What?" I said louder than I meant to. Linda sighed again, like I was being dense. "The dinner bill. It was a bit higher than we expected." My stomach didn't just drop, it flipped into a full-on rage spiral. I stared at them, waiting for the punchline, but their faces stayed dead serious. "You want me to pay for it?" I asked, my voice flat, disbelief dripping from every word. James nodded, scratching his neck like this was no big deal. "You've got some money laying around, right? I mean, you're doing well for yourself." I laughed, a short, sharp bark that echoed off my bare walls. "You're kidding." Linda shook her head, her lips pursing like I'd insulted her. "No, Ryan, Sophie's promotion was a big deal. We wanted to celebrate properly, but the bill ended up more than we thought." She gave me this pointed look like I should have seen it coming. "Since you didn't contribute in any other way, we figured you could at least help out financially." I felt light-headed, my coffee mug trembling in my hand. "You didn't even save me a seat," I said slow, "and now you want me to pay for it?" Linda rolled her eyes, actually rolled them like I was some whiny kid. Don't be dramatic, Ryan. My jaw dropped. Dramatic, I said, my voice rising. I'm pretty sure you just showed up at my door to shake me down for money after pretending I don't exist. James cleared his throat, stepping in like he could play a peacemaker. Look, we're not asking for the whole thing, just a few hundred. It's not that much for you. I clenched my jaw so hard my teeth ached. How much was the bill? Linda hesitated, her eyes flickering to James. 1,200, she muttered. I nearly choked. $1,200? She shrugged like it was pocket change. We got some expensive drinks and your uncle ordered a few extra things. I cut her off, my voice sharp. And why is this my problem? Linda's face tightened, her tone turning condescending. Sophie doesn't make as much as you, Ryan, and we paid for most of her college. We thought it was only fair if you helped out, just this once. That's when something snapped inside me, a cord I'd been holding taut for years. Oh, I see, I said, my voice icy. You paid for her college, bought her that Audi, covered her rent when she couldn't hold a job. But me? I worked 2 jobs to get through school, built my career from nothing, and now, because I've got a decent paycheck, you think I should bail you out after treating me like a ghost for years? Linda's lips pressed into a thin line, her cheeks flushing. We're family, Ryan. I laughed again. No humour in it, just pure bitterness. No, we're not. Family doesn't pull what you did last night. James sighed like I was exhausting him. Just be reasonable. We know you've got savings. I tilted my head, my eyes narrowing. And how exactly do you know that? They didn't answer, just exchanged a quick glance. My blood ran cold. Oh, I said, letting out a slow breath. Did Sophie tell you about my bonus last month? You've been sniffing around my finances, haven't you? Linda shook her head fast. Of course not. Your aunt mentioned it, and we thought... I held up a hand. Stop, just stop. They actually looked offended, like I'd slapped them. Linda switched tactics, her voice softening. Look, sweetheart, we love you, but you need to stop holding grudges. Last night was a misunderstanding. I levelled her with a stare. A misunderstanding? You didn't save me a seat. Sophie rubbed it in my face. None of you called when I left, but now you need cash and suddenly I'm your sweetheart? Silence hung heavy between us. Linda's jaw tightened. Don't be selfish, she snapped. I scoffed, loud and sharp. Selfish? Let's talk about selfish. Selfish is throwing a grand party for Sophie's 6-month promotion while I've never gotten a good job from you. Selfish is expecting me to foot the bill for a night I wasn't even welcome at. Selfish is only showing up here when you need my wallet. James stepped forward, his voice firm. We're your family, Ryan. You owe us some respect. That word, "oh," lit a fire in me. No, I said, my voice steady as steel. I don't owe you a damn thing. Respect is earned, and after last night, you've lost whatever scraps I had left. Linda's face twisted, genuinely stunned, like she'd never dreamed I'd push back. James sighed again. Fine. If you won't help, we'll figure it out ourselves. Yeah, I said coolly. You will. Linda shot me a glare. Don't expect us to be there when you need something. I chuckled, bitter and cold. You've never been there anyway. I walked to the door, yanked it open, and stood there, waiting. They hesitated, like they wanted to argue more, but I didn't budge. Linda huffed and stormed out, James trailing behind. I slammed the door, locked it, and leaned against it, my breath ragged. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Sophie was about to learn that smirking at me was the worst mistake she'd ever made. Sunday night after James and Linda left my apartment, I sat on my couch, the silence of my Capitol Hill place pressing in like a weight. My coffee had gone cold, my phone stayed dark, and that tight knot in my chest just wouldn't loosen. I told them off, kicked them out, but it didn't feel like a win. Not yet. I kept replaying Linda's smug, "Don't be selfish," and James's gruff, "You owe us respect," like they'd rehearsed it to guilt me into cracking open my wallet. 4 years with Sophie, and this was what I got. A fiancée who smirked while her parents treated me like an ATM with legs. I should have been furious, should have been plotting revenge right then and there, but all I felt was this hollow ache. I went to bed, hoping sleep would drown it out, but by Monday morning, March 03, 2025, the storm hit full force. I woke up to my phone buzzing like a hornet's nest. Notifications stacked up. Texts, missed calls, Instagram pings, all lighting up my screen like a Christmas tree on steroids. I rubbed my eyes, figuring it was some work glitch or a group chat gone wild. Then I saw it, a tagged post from Sophie. My stomach sank as I opened Instagram, and there it was, plastered for the world to see. She'd posted a photo from Giovanni's, her in the center, wine glass raised, that damn smirk front and center. The caption read, "As celebrating my big promotion with family who actually show up. Too bad some people can't handle not being the star. Selfishness doesn't belong in a marriage. Guess I dodged a bullet there." She'd tagged me, bold as brass, like she wanted me to see every word. I stared at it, my thumb hovering over the screen, my breath catching in my throat. She didn't just call me selfish. She was painting me as the deadbeat fiancé who ruined her night. Comments were already pouring in. Linda chimed in first. "We gave him every chance, Soph. Some people just don't get family." James added, "He'll regret this. We raised you better than that." Raised her? I wasn't even their kid, and they were acting like I'd betrayed some sacred oath. Then the flying monkeys swooped in, cousins I'd met twice, Sophie's work friends, even my old high school buddy Mark, who wrote, "Dude, what's wrong with you? That's cold." My phone buzzed again, texts from people I hadn't talked to in years. "Wow, Ryan, didn't expect this from you," one said. "How could you do that to Sophie?" another demanded. I felt like I'd been sucker punched, the air sucked right out of me. I scrolled back to Sophie's post, my hands shaking. Over 200 likes already, and it had only been up since midnight. She'd turned me into the villain of her little fairy tale, and the world was eating it up. I tossed my phone on the couch, pacing my tiny living room, trying to breathe through the rage bubbling up. Selfish? Me? After they'd left me standing there like a fool at Giovanni's, after they demanded I pay for their party, I wanted to smash something, scream into the void, but then my phone rang. Sophie's name flashed across the screen. My jaw clenched. I almost ignored it, but some twisted part of me needed to hear what she'd say. I answered, keeping my voice flat. "What?" Her laugh crackled through, sharp and smug, like she'd been waiting for this. "Oh, Ryan, you picked up. I figured you'd be too busy sulking to talk." I gripped the phone tighter. "What the hell's your post about, Sophie?" She snorted, that same damn snort from the restaurant. "It's about you being a selfish jerk. You stormed out of my party, embarrassed me in front of everyone, and then wouldn't even help Mum and Dad with the bill. What kind of fiancé does that?" I laughed, a dry, bitter sound that surprised even me. "Embarrassed you? You didn't even save me a seat. You smirked in my face and acted like I was crashing your coronation, and now you're mad I didn't pay for it?" She didn't miss a beat, her voice dripping with mock pity. "Oh, poor Ryan, always the victim. Maybe if you weren't so obsessed with your little coding world, you'd see what family means. Mom and Dad were right. You're not cut out for this. You think you're better than me, don't you?" My blood boiled, but I kept it cool, icy cool. "Better than you? No, Soph, I just thought you'd be better than this." She laughed again, louder, like I'd told the world's funniest joke. "Keep telling yourself that. You're nothing without us, Ryan, nothing. Enjoy your sad little life." She hung up, leaving me staring at the blank screen, her words echoing in my skull. I sank onto the couch, my head in my hands. 4 years of her late-night work dinners, her flirty texts she'd brush off as just friends, her parents' constant parade of praise while I faded into the wallpaper. And now this, publicly humiliated, painted as the bad guy because I wouldn't bow to their game. My phone buzzed again. Another text, this one from Linda. "You've upset the whole family, Ryan. We had to scramble to cover that bill. You should be ashamed." Ashamed? I laughed out loud, a jagged sound that bounced off my bare walls. They'd turned their mess into my fault, and Sophie was leading the charge, smirking all the way. I opened Instagram again, scrolling through the comments. "Ungrateful jerk," one said. "Sophie deserves better," another chimed in. My co-worker Jess texted, "Dude, what's this about? You okay?" I didn't reply. Not yet. I was drowning in it, the weight of their lies piling up like bricks on my chest. I'd spent years taking it. Sophie's jabs, her parents' dismissal, because I loved her, because I thought we'd build something real. But this was a line crossed, a bridge burned. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was done. Done playing the fool, done letting them drag me through their mud. I grabbed my phone, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I could fire back right now, call her out, spill every dirty detail I'd kept buried. Like that time 6 months ago, when I found flirty texts from her co-worker Dave on her phone, late-night you-up messages she swore were just joking. I'd let it slide, bought her excuse because I didn't want to lose her. Or last year when she forgot to invite me to her company gala, only for me to see pics of her laughing with some suit on her arm. I'd swallowed it all. Told myself I was overreacting, but now I saw it clear as day. Sophie didn't just take me for granted. She played me, and her parents were her cheerleaders. I didn't type anything, not yet. I set the phone down, my mind racing. She wanted to humiliate me. Fine. Let's see how she liked it when the tables turned. I stood up, pacing again, the gears clicking into place. This wasn't about yelling back in some petty comment war. This was about hitting her where it hurt, where she couldn't smirk her way out. Sophie thought she'd won, thought she could dance on my grave and watch me crumble. Oh, she had no idea what was coming. I'd spent 4 years building a life she'd never bothered to notice. My job, my savings, my spine. She wanted to play dirty, I'd play smarter. I'd make her regret every laugh, every jab, every time she thought she could step on me and walk away clean. This wasn't over. This was war, and I was just getting started. Monday night, March 03, 2025, I sat on my couch in my Capitol Hill apartment, the glow of my phone screen, the only light cutting through the dark. Sophie's Instagram post stared back at me, her smug little victory lap calling me selfish, painting me as the fiancé who couldn't handle her shine. The comments piled up like vultures on a carcass, Linda and James egging them on, strangers, tearing into me like I'd kicked a puppy. My blood was still boiling from her call. Her laugh, that "you're nothing without us" jab echoing in my skull. 4 years of her games, her parents' favoritism, and now this public gut punch. I'd had enough. I wasn't going to sit here and take it anymore. Sophie wanted a war. She'd get one, and I'd make sure she'd never smirk at me again. I grabbed my laptop, flipped it open, and started typing. No hesitation, no second guessing, just pure cold intent. My fingers flew across the keys, every word sharp as a blade. "Since my fiancée and her family decided to publicly trash me," I began, "I figure it's time to set the record straight. I'm done protecting people who'd rather bury me than face their own mess." I laid it all out. Wednesday's call from Linda, that sweet little family celebration invite that sucked me in. Saturday night at Giovanni's, walking into a party with no seat. Sophie's smirk slicing through me like a knife. Her loud, "I didn't know you were coming," for the whole room to hear. Linda's dodge, James's silence, the banner screaming her name. I didn't stop there. Sunday's ambush. James and Linda at my door, not with apologies, but with their hands out for $1,500, whining that I owed them because Sophie's paycheck couldn't cover their champagne dreams. Then I went deeper. "Here's what they won't tell you," I wrote. "Sophie spent 4 years treating me like a backup plan. 6 months ago, I found texts on her phone. 'Late night, you up?' Messages from her co-worker, Dave. She swore it was just joking. And I bought it because I didn't want to lose her. Last year, she forgot to invite me to her company gala. Funny how I saw pics of her laughing with some suit all night. I let it slide, told myself I was paranoid. But Saturday, that was the last straw. No seat, no respect, just her smirking while her parents begged me to bankroll their circus. I finished with a punch. I'm not the selfish one, they are, and I'm done. I hit post on Facebook, my heart pounding as the screen refreshed. It was out there, raw, real, every ugly truth I'd swallowed for years. I leaned back, exhaling slow, waiting for the fallout. It didn't take long. Within an hour, notifications exploded. Likes, shares, comments lighting up my feed like a fireworks show. Old college buddies chimed in. "Holy crap, Ryan, I had no idea." My co-worker Jess wrote, "You deserve better, man, screw them." Even Sophie's cousin Amy, who'd been at Giovanni's, commented, "I saw how they treated you. This tracks." The post spread like wildfire, racking up hundreds of reactions by midnight. I refreshed Sophie's Instagram. Her smug post was still up, but the comments had shifted. "Wait, is this true?" someone asked. "Girl, you've got some explaining to do," another wrote. The tide was turning. Tuesday morning, my phone buzzed again, a text from Sophie. "What the hell, Ryan? Take it down now." I smirked, imagining her perfect little pout as she typed it. "No thanks," I shot back, then muted her. By noon, I got word from Jess. Sophie's company had caught wind of the drama. Turns out her assistant manager gig wasn't as secure as she'd bragged. Her boss saw my post, dug into her work Slack, and found flirty chats with Dave, same guy from those texts I'd ignored. Worse, she'd been padding her expense reports, claiming client dinners that were really nights out with him. By Wednesday, Jess texted me the update. "She's out, fired this morning, office is buzzing." I leaned back in my chair, a slow grin spreading. Sophie's throne was crumbling, and I hadn't even lifted a finger beyond that post. Thursday night, my phone lit up with a flood of messages from Sophie. "Ryan, please, you don't get it," the first one read. "I lost my job because of you," I scrolled, watching her spiral. I didn't mean it, okay? I was stressed, I messed up, but this is too much. Then the kicker. I'm sorry, all right? Can we talk? I've lost everything. My job, my friends, my parents are freaking out. Don't do this to me. I laughed out loud, a cold, hollow sound that bounced off my walls. Do this to her. Oh, Sophie, you did this to yourself. I pictured her sitting in her swanky downtown condo, mascara streaking down her face, that smirk long gone. What a sight. Too bad I was fresh out of sympathy. I didn't reply. Instead, I grabbed the engagement ring from my dresser, $2,000 I'd saved up for, a diamond she'd flaunted like a trophy. I drove to the post office, stuffed it in a padded envelope with a note. Hope it was worth it. I dropped it in the mail, addressed to her place, and walked out feeling lighter than I had in years. No long goodbye, no screaming match, just a clean cut mailed off with a smirk of my own. She'd get it Friday, and I'd be long gone from her world by then. The fallout kept rolling. Friday, I heard from Amy again. Sophie's parents were in panic mode. Linda tried calling me, left a voicemail I didn't bother playing. James texted, "You've gone too far, Ryan. Fix this." Fix it? I laughed, deleting it without a second thought. Sophie's perfect little life was imploding. Friends ghosting her, her job gone, her parents scrambling to save face. I checked Facebook Saturday morning. My post had over 1,000 shares now, people tagging her company, calling out her lies. A former co-worker of hers messaged me, "She's been screwing around with Dave for months. You dodged a bullet, man." I nodded to myself. Yeah, I did. By Sunday, March 09, 2025, Sophie tried one last time. A long, rambling voicemail. "Ryan, I'm begging you. I know I screwed up, okay? I cheated. I lied. I took you for granted, but I love you. I can't lose you too. Please, let's fix this." Her voice cracked, all shaky and desperate, like she'd rehearsed it in front of a mirror. I played it twice just to hear that smug edge gone, replaced by a whimper. Then I deleted it. Love me? Sure, Sophie. Love me enough to laugh in my face at Giovanni's, to trash me online, to screw around behind my back. I wasn't buying her Oscar-worthy tears, not this time. I sat back staring out of my window at the Seattle skyline, the Space Needle cutting through the grey. 4 years with Sophie, and it ended with a Facebook post and a mailed ring. She'd thought she could bury me, thought her parents' favoritism and her little smirks would keep me in line, but I'd flipped the script, her job toast, her reputation shredded, her perfect future up in flames, and me. I was done being her punching bag, her wallet, her fool. She'd paid the price, not with cash, but with everything she'd built on my back. I didn't feel glee, didn't dance around my apartment. I just felt free, cold, hard freedom, the kind that settles in your bones when you finally let go of the weight, dragging you down. This wasn't the end I'd pictured when I proposed 2 years ago, but it was the end I needed. Sophie could cry all she wanted, beg, until her voice gave out. I was out, and she'd never smirk at me again. Stick around, folks, because this ride's got one last stop, and it's all about how I rebuilt from the ashes she left behind. It's been 6 months since I walked away from Sophie and her family, and I'm still here, standing tall in Seattle, Washington. Today's March 06, 2025, and I'm not the same Ryan Carter who sat at Giovanni's with no seat, who let Sophie's smirks and her parents' demands chip away at me. That guy's gone. I cut the cord, burned the bridge, and built something new from the ashes. After mailing that ring, I moved out of my cramped Capitol Hill apartment and snagged a small place near Green Lake. Nothing fancy, just mine. No more echoes of her laugh, no more late-night guilt trips from Linda, just quiet, fresh air and a view that reminds me I'm free. Work steady, I'm picking projects I love, no more grinding for approval I'll never get. I started hiking again, tracing trails along the Cascades, letting the burn in my legs drown out the noise Sophie left behind. I'm not running from it, I'm living past it. She paid her price. Job gone, friends scattered, that perfect little life she flaunted reduced to rubble. I don't gloat, don't check her Instagram to see the wreckage. I don't need to. I'm done carrying her weight, done being the guy who bends until he breaks. I'm worth more than that, and it took her betrayal to make me see it. You're worth more too. If someone's treating you like a doormat, smirking while they step on you, don't wait for them to change. Walk away, build your own path, and let them choke on the dust. So, what do you think? Did I play it right? Or should I have burned it down sooner? Drop your thoughts below. This is my win, and I'm just getting started.